we're back from the Export Beer Garden studio. It is a Champagne Rugby podcast. Of course, brought to you now by MAXRaft, fitting insulated concrete slabs nationwide. The first step to a warm, comfortable, healthy home. It's me, Tony Lyall. I'm back with G Lane after a large weekend of rugby football with one of the most punishing games I've watched in recent memory. But some big games over that weekend, G Lane, which I think we'll get into in due course. But before we do, the big news that got me absolutely frothing at the gash yesterday, if that is a saying, indeed.
It is now. That's a horrendous saying.
Yeah, sorry about that. It is a picture of Beauden Barrett in a modern days Blues uniform. His club over in Japan was knocked out before the semis, so he got no semi, but it does mean he might get full wood back here in New Zealand playing for the Blues. He's back, baby.
Yeah, well, hopefully. He has to get an exemption from the rugby union because he wasn't playing before the arbitrary cut-off date of the April 1st, apparently. He needed to be back playing in Super Rugby to be eligible to play in the finals.
Yeah, I mean, there's part of me, I see that, and I'm like, that's fair. Otherwise, you can just get players back for the finals. And I think we all probably played in a team where they'd stack their team with kids who'd come in from other clubs or whatever for the finals. You'd always be like, that's not really fair. Like, you're not playing with the right team.
But professional rugby, you want to see the best players, right? As fans. I understand if, you're playing last man stands and that kind of social league and in strolls Colin Munro, who's just retired and he hits you for 100 off one over. I can understand that, but this is professional sports. I want to see the best players on the field. If Bodie Barrett's back in New Zealand, kicking goals, running around the field in Ellerslie Showgrounds, training with the Blues, I want to see him on the field.
I know what you mean. I have to say this. I'm a Highlanders guy, always will be, always have been. And the Blues, because I live in Auckland, sort of like kind of become your second team by default. My son loves them, so I'm like, oh yeah, kind of like them. But I will say this. If they bring back Bodie Barrett and by the end of the season he's starting and they drop Harry Plummer to the bench, I hope they fucking lose. It's what a absolute disgrace for a guy who's got them to where they are now. And they're like, oh, Bodie's back, mate. Out you go. How did it go last year with Bodie? Do you remember that? Went shit out.
I tell you what, though, they are in strife and they have asked for a dispensation because Zahn Sullivan has now been ruled out for the season. And I think they've lost, Bryce Heem, I think, is out for a little bit.
Yeah.
But maybe if they do say he can play, maybe they say he can only play fullback. Yeah. An old plum dog millionaire continues at first five.
So hurtful, getting replaced mid-season. He must have seen those news and been like, oh, for fuck's sake. This has been my year. I've come, genuinely, I think he's been playing really well. I mean, a lot of people probably haven't rated him in seasons gone by, sort of see him as a bit player. And this year he's really stood up into that main character role. And now he's like, oh, fucking Bodie's back already, stealing my sunshine. I go back to bloody screwing in taps and sinks and other plumbers' activities.
Yeah.
It just seems hurtful. But I think Pierre Feta Cheese is maybe a bit carrying an injury as well. So it would make sense. So they brought him in, maybe had him at fullback. But what an outrageous backline. Yeah, well, maybe he has to start from the bench or something. I mean, maybe there's some exemptions, though. They have to say that, that'd be quite funny if he started on the bench and then they just benched Plum Dog Millionaire in the first minute. Said HIA, he's got to go off.
He got punched out by his own player. Rieko Ioane knocked him out in a ruck and he had to go off.
It would be like Rieko Ioane to knock someone out accidentally, his own player. But I'm glad to see him back. I am, and I mean, it bodes well for returning for the tests, get him back in black as soon as we can.
Nice pun there, bodes well.
Did I say, bodes well, unaware of it?
Yeah,
See,
look, it just flows out you, doesn't it? I mean, you're in the middle of comedy week right now, so it's just pouring out.
I really am. The brain is a bit dead. Grab tickets, by the way, for the love of Christ. Comedyfestival.co.nz, lower the tone. Jeez, put me out of my misery already.
So the rugby union have got that decision to make.
Yes.
It's up to them, apparently, to make the decision around whether Bodie Barrett can play, and they'll give him a special dispensation. It's
Bodie Barrett. They will get down on their all fours and let him walk them around while he makes them bark like some sort of depraved sexual fantasy that you might have. It is the New Zealand Rugby Union. They'll bend over backwards for a Barrett.
Well, they've got a bit on their plate right now. And
I've heard about this.
And so this is news that you explained it in one. You went, one, sounds boring.
Yeah.
Two, don't understand it.
Exactly.
And this is the New Zealand Rugby Players Association v NZR. Now, I've read quite a lot of it, and this is a real layman's explanation of what's happened.
Oh, dispense it for me.
Okay, so, you remember Silver Lake. Remember the Americans with the cigars and the money who came over?
Oh, big time.
So they came over, and it was a bit of toing and froing around what that agreement was going to be. Eventually, the New Zealand Rugby Players Association, who basically control all the players and all their rights and everything else and their images. And so they're in partnership with the rugby union for rugby in New Zealand, professional rugby. So without each other, they don't exist. So they agreed to the Silver Lake deal, and apparently there was a part of that deal was they need to conduct a full review of the governance of New Zealand rugby, because the Players Association are not happy with how the game's been run. They would like an independent review of it just to get everyone, so everyone can see what the future would look like. Maybe we need to do a bit of change at the top. Review comes back, suggests that the entire board has to go, and they need to appoint 9 independent directors to run the professional game in New Zealand. A raft of other changes as well, but that was the crux of it. It was an independent review. A lot of money was spent. And the Players Association went, that's awesome, cool. I think we should we should follow these recommendations. And the recommendations came with quite a large report. Anyway, so what's happened is the provincial unions and the rugby union have gone, I don't know about that. That's just might be a bit too far. That just, I don't know if we can do that. And the provincial unions have then put their own proposal forward about a change of governance, which is not really a change of governance. It's more the provincial unions decide who's on the board and have more control of the national game than the rugby union. And the Players Association going, that's pretty much the same as it is now. That is the status quo. Nothing will change. So if nothing changes after a report came out saying we definitely need changes, then we're out. And so that's what they've said. They've said this is ridiculous. We're out. And if we don't get what we want, we will be withdrawing from the deal from New Zealand Rugby and starting our own organisation which will run professional rugby in New Zealand. So they'll run Super Rugby, they'll do the broadcast rights, the commercial deals.
Well, the Players Association are going to do this. Yep. Good luck to them. I feel like they might have bitten off more than they can chew there.
I think it's a gun to the head, and it is potentially, I mean, they won't call their bluff, but they can dissolve their relationship with the rugby union and pretty much dissolve, if they wanted to, professional rugby competition in New Zealand.
Oh, they're never going to do it. This is how they get paid. There's no way they're going to be so bold.
Well, I don't know.
What are they going to do? Say, we won't play rugby anymore. Hey, all right, boys.
No, they'll play rugby.
Hope you got some other skills.
They'll play rugby, but they'll just do it themselves.
Who's going to organise it? What, the Players Union's they're going to go get a bunch of balls?
Yeah, no, they just hire a bunch of people. Look, this is their threat, because I can understand their frustration, because the game does need to change and evolve in New Zealand. Something needs to happen because it's dying. It is dying. The attendance is down.
Oh, that's what everyone keeps telling me, but I keep seeing it on TV week in, week out. Apparently, record people watching Super Rugby on television at the moment.
That's because of the ACC's covering it now.
I mean, that is a large part. I think you and I are responsible for a large part of the groundswell.
Participation's down, though. Participation from a club level is the lowest it's ever been.
I know, but people think there's this sort of like correlation between there's a lot going on of change in the wider landscape as well. We live in a globalist community. There's other sports coming in. We've been a meat and two veg country, and now we're being globalized. So there's other sports available, so people aren't just rugby or nothing.
Yeah.
So we have to. So the idea of like, we've got to change this and get it back to how it was. You're like, no, we've got to adapt. To it.
It's the adaptation that's not happening. Like they're expecting to keep on doing the same thing. The old cliche, you can't keep doing the same thing. Result. That's all they're saying. We just need to do something different. And I mean, I think their interpretation of doing something different is getting the guys from Dude Perfect over to New Zealand and flying around in a helicopter with Richie McCaw to promote the game in the US. Yeah,
pretty punishing from me watching that. I thought, geez, surely we could get something.
How much? That would have cost a lot of money. Dude Perfect. They don't do many videos for under $1 million for a commercial client.
No, so they would have absolutely raked in. And also, wasn't that impressive, the stuff they're doing? I was like, where are these giant trick shots? They're just
also, flag the trick shots. Run it straight at Julian Savia.
Now we're talking.
Like, that would be, I'd watch that.
So have we ever pitched this for the ACC just for a run it straight comp with a whole bunch of the players?
Yeah, it's funny because run it straight is huge. I was helping run Ladies' Day at the North Shore Rugby Club on Saturday. And great day down there. Heaps of ladies. There was a premier game on. It was Shore versus Northcote. Fields cleared. The lights came on because it was quite, it was in the evening. And then basically 100 boys under the age of 12 just playing run it straight.
Yeah, great.
And just absolutely, and then my 7-year-old was out there and I went, oh God. And he ran it straight at a 10-year-old. Stepped him, which he was quite proud of. And got away from him.
Controversial, run it straight.
No, I know. He is about 30 kgs lighter than the one he was running against. But the run it straight was huge. And I saw some parents going, I hate run it straight. And I was like, because you hate it, I think it's got potential.
100% it's got potential. I mean, it's one of the things I remember most fondly from the now cancelled TV show Jono and Ben is I think Jono took a highball and was smashed and his collarbone was shattered. And I thought, now this is entertainment.
And you know what? With that, I was talking to Ben about that. The guy who tackled, I think it might have been Jerome Kano, maybe?
I can't remember off the top of my head. It'll pop to me once.
It was someone like that who said, I won't go too hard. And he didn't really go that hard.
He just fell awkwardly. And I think he was in a tackle bag as well, so he didn't put his arms down. There was a few things going on. But that sort of thing. I'd also love the chance to tackle. So let's say we get Akira Ioane with ball in hand, running it straight. I'll see if I can stop him.
You reckon you would be into it?
I reckon he'd bunt the shit out of me, but, it'd be fun to try.
Oh, man, I could just see a knee going into my jaw and shattering my entire face.
But these are the things that I think we've got to try. That'll get
global coverage.
This will get global coverage. Civilian becomes paraplegic after Akira Ioane explodes his head.
After a run it straight gag fails miserably.
Yeah.
I want to see run it straight become like bull rush, because bull rush got banned from schools. Did it get banned from your school?
Certainly did.
School? Yeah.
Yep.
And so there was basically a blanket no bull rush because people would come home with no teeth, no shirt, everything ripped off.
Greatest game of all.
I want run it straight to be banned. So I want on the board of all principals at primary schools and intermediates is just like bull rush, run it straight.
Now, was catch and kiss banned? Because I found always catch and kiss, it did have undertones of the big R. It was always a bit creepy. Catch him and then kiss him.
There was consent issues there.
There was massive consent issues.
But because it was mainly girls chasing boys and kissing them, I think they kind of slid under the radar.
Yeah.
And it was never really a full-on kiss. I can remember just getting a kiss on the cheek and thinking that was disgusting.
Yeah, I remember getting a kiss on the cheek and then having to sit down for a little while. I was like, oh, geez, something's happening. I'm feeling feelings I've never felt before.
Quickly go off into the toilets and do a poo or something?
Yeah, probably just go for a quick sit. Maybe just we rummage around in your tool sack.
So going back, is that clear as mud now?
It certainly is. I'm not sure if you made it not boring, but it is clearer.
It's clearer. Well, my other description was it's the Players Association saying, hey, you old bastards, we need to change. If you don't, we'll change it for you.
My issue is I can't help but feel like a lot of this, it's like the players sort of it feels like the players having a whinge against the people who are trying their best to run the game. And you always go, that's the job no one wants. No one wants the running the game part. That's the boring. Playing the game, great, let's do it. Yeah. But when you've got the guys who get all the glory, and they're the guys getting the $1 million contracts, and I know the board members probably get paid well as well, but they're the glory boys over here being like, oh, you're doing a bad job over here. You're like, what are you doing to promote the game apart from playing it? I feel like a lot of those guys could be doing more in that space without putting their hand out for a fee for everything they do.
Yeah, well, they'll probably, half of them will probably end up in administration, I imagine.
They'll slide up the rank.
Absolutely.
I do think they've got to do something about just the relationship between the players and the wider media. You see other sports absolutely kick it out of the park with the access people get, and rugby just hasn't caught up at all. They still think it's some golden goose to get an interview with an All Black. And you're like, guys, the thing is, you put it on TV and kind of no one cares. There's so much other access there. You've got to manage that.
The protection is odd, isn't it? And that is a bit draconian, and potentially maybe that's what they're going to say the changes, because that's controlled by more All Blacks management.
Well, and even then you get the players on to an interview and they're like, good game, three things, and then they're like, we'll stick to our processes. You're like, hey buddy, how about you talk like a real person for once in your life, and people might give a shit about you.
Unless they're in the last couple of years of their career. It's like cricket as well. Ross Taylor, for me, only became interesting in his last season.
100%.
But Kieran Reid, he towed the line until about his last couple of years, and then he just said whatever the fuck he wanted.
Yeah, he has gone rogue.
Yeah, and then so I feel like those younger players, you just do what you're told, don't you?
Yeah.
He goes, if Tony Lyall asks you, tries to trick you with a question, just go, just shrug your shoulders and just don't even answer it. Instead of saying, what the fuck are you talking about, you fucking asshole?
Now we're talking. Call me a fucking asshole. That's what we want. We want those sound bites. We want them to see them fly off the handle.
Totally.
Run it straight.
Run it straight. Well, that's why everyone loves rugby league.
Yeah.
So much, because they guys they are the biggest bogan lunatics.
They're characters. They're vomiting on the field. They're doing cocaine in the changing shed after the game, allegedly.
And they've got a whole ethics committee who must have folders on everyone just ready to go.
Yeah, it's
if
tough.
You don't do that, media, Tony, I'm going to bring this photo out.
I'm going to release the photo of you and the several hundred underage girls. They're like, oh, please don't do that.
Okay, well, you're doing media every Friday.
Allegedly. That's not a real player, by the way. I don't want to tarnish anyone's good name here in the rugby league community. But I imagine Brisbane was awash.
Oh my God,
with photos.
The Bogan Olympics.
Yeah, it's always surprised me, sports people's willingness to film themselves committing crimes. Just don't film yourself.
It's not just sports people, though. I think it's a generational thing. There is a lot of people in their 20s who are filming themselves doing terrible things.
Don't film yourself.
I know.
Obviously, don't do the crime, yada, yada, yada. But also, just put your phone away for 5 seconds. Don't film yourself. It's crazy to me that you'd ever do this.
I know. And also, and if you are, make sure you keep your face out of it. Don't put it on your own channels. No distinguishable marks, no tattoos or anything, and then you can just deny it.
Yeah, before you sprinkle the powder on the Ranfurly shield.
That wasn't powder, mate. That was resin.
Blur your face. Oh, I mean, I've dealt with a bit of resin in my time, and let me tell you, it gets the job done. It sorts you out nonetheless.
Malachi Fekitoa was one of the great dick pics as well.
It certainly was.
And
bulbous looking thing,
he
wasn't it?
knew how to give perspective on that because he had it low, and it was the first thing you saw. So it obviously his own downstairs gullivered the rest of his body.
Yeah.
But the key mistake for him is he had his face in it.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, to be fair, that is a recognisable schlong.
Oh my God.
It looked like his calf looks. Oh, sorry, his what's the top part of your leg called?
Your thigh.
Thigh, that's the word I'm looking for. It looked like a thigh.
Yeah.
And it was outrageous, had its own tats.
He wasn't.
I think it was pulling the fingers. It was an angry looking thing.
He wasn't he wasn't suffering the curse, was he, Malachi?
No. I found myself sort of staring at that for a few hours like a magic eye when I first time I saw it, just thinking, oh.
Just going in and out, waiting for it to go 3D. Was that what you were
telling me
doing?
that's what some people are running with? That is unreal. No wonder he's a Super Rugby winning champion. He has a full thigh between his legs.
What is he up to? Is he playing in France?
Yeah, he certainly is. He's off there running around. I think he's bounced around a whole bunch of different clubs, and yeah, he's out there just being grateful for the opportunities.
I had a great interaction with Malachi Fekitoa at it was New Zealand Fashion Week actually, and we were there with jockeys, and he was a jockey ambassador, and Matt Heath and I were there. Matt Heath's obviously a huge Highlanders fan.
Yeah.
Malachi Fekitoa was a Highlanders player, and I said to him, we called him Eyebrows Fekitoa because he had those big,
beautiful, luscious eyebrows.
And I was like, Eyebrows Fekitoa, and he goes, what? And he goes, Matt Heath's a big fan, and I left because I could see he didn't appreciate the Eyebrows Fekitoa.
Especially at Fashion Week, he's probably already self-conscious. He's like, oh, God.
Yeah, indeed.
I'm being ridiculed here for being at Fashion Week in the first place, walking around in my jockeys.
Yeah.
It's certainly tough stuff. We'll take a quick break and then come back with a little bit of coverage of the games over the weekend, I reckon. And we're back. It's a Champagne Rugby podcast brought to you by MAXRaft. And MAXRaft's insulated concrete slabs are warming homes around New Zealand, and now they want to give you the chance to head to your team's next home game. Text HEAT and your super team to 3236 to win a double pass to your team's next home match. And we'll take a look at some of the matches over the weekend. The first one that caught my attention, really grabbed me by the short and curlies. I was watching it on a bus because there was bus replacement trains because the city we live in is not a real city. And it was the Crusaders in a late controversial decision going down to the Brumbies over in Canberra. And can I just say this, Ben O'Keefe, I love you. You're a great guy. But, mate, what the fuck?
He didn't. The thing is with O'Keefe, because obviously the controversy was around Quentin Strange batted the ball dead after a missed penalty, and that was deemed as a cynical foul play, and a penalty try was given. Now, firstly, it's illegal to do that. It's legal in league, and he's probably watched a lot of league and seen it.
Yeah, just had a brain fade.
Yeah, but the worst case scenario, it was a penalty. But that would have been a penalty in front of the sticks, which they would have kicked and won the game.
Exactly.
Anyway, so to give a penalty try seemed a slight overreaction because I don't think a certain try was going to happen because, first of all, Quentin Strange got there first and there were 3 other Crusaders players there and 1 Brumby.
Yeah.
And the ref saying that if you hadn't done that, the Brumby would have scored the try.
No way.
Which is crazy.
It was crazy. I think there was a few things going on. He sort of put his hand up and he did bat it back, but the Brumby player coming through also hit his hand going for the ball, which I thought you'd probably have an argument to say I was going for it and his hand hit mine and I slapped the ball, which is probably far-fetched. I thought at worst it was a penalty.
Yeah.
A penalty, you'd take that one. And the great irony of the whole thing really is if it was a penalty, they would have had another minute, they would have wound down the clock, kicked the penalty, that would have been game over. But because it was a penalty try, they had time for the restart, which still the Crusaders lost, and they won anyway. So I think they were fucked either way. They had no real chance of winning it. But it is that idea of you would have definitely scored had he not done that. And I mean, especially And I know they're different sports, different rules, but you look at that Dallin Watene-Zelezniak one from the other week in the Warriors where he caught it and was tackled and it still wasn't a penalty try. Again, you're comparing apples with oranges, but it's wild stuff. And it just seems crazy to me that they went to penalty try so fast. All I could think of is, where's the Crusaders captain? Who is here? I would have been pissing and moaning so much about that if I was the captain of that team in O'Keefe's face. There's no way I would have been not there.
Was it because it was a cynical professional foul?
But still, that's not a penalty try. It doesn't automatically raise the stakes. So that's cynical means it's yellow card, so then you're off for sure. And maybe Quinn Strange was the fill-in captain is all I can think, that no one was absolutely pestering him saying, there's no way they were going to score. You can't say he's guaranteed a try there.
And Severed Peace, I think, summed it up at the end of that match in the post-match interview, didn't he? They said, what's your thoughts on that? And the last thing goes, that pretty much sums up our season.
Yeah, that's tough.
right there in that 1 minute block there summed up our season.
Yeah, they really did everything they could to get back in the game, to level it up, maybe go into extra time, and then just an absolute punisher. And they're done. I'd say that's them cooked. They've got a
mathematical chance. Okay, so if they could still lose this weekend to the Blues, and then they have to absolutely hump Moana, but Fiji and Drua have to lose both their games coming up. And one of their games is in Fiji, I think against the Rebels. So they're relying on Fiji losing both their games and them getting a bonus point against Moana Pacifica.
Well, they'd have to win. Crusaders would have to beat the Blues as well and then beat their last game because they're only on 15 points currently. The Fiji and Drua are sitting in 8th on 21 points. So there's 6 points out of the 8 now.
Right.
So they're going to have to win both of their games.
So if you win with a bonus point, what do you get?
5 points. Okay. So that only bring them to 20, so they're still outside the 8. So a loss to the Blues, and that would be absolutely done and dusted. I mean, they'd be doing pretty well. Even they're 8 points adrift of the Highlanders at 7 currently, so they'd have to win both games, one of which with a bonus point, which seems... I mean, they could potentially win that...
That's still likely.
The next game.
And they've come out in the media today and said we can beat anyone.
Well, they certainly can't because we've seen it. We've seen them not be able to beat almost anyone. The worst season and maybe on record for the Crusaders. It does sort of carry on 2 wins.
Yeah.
And the Chiefs must have been sitting there thinking, God, geez, we really dropped the ball there.
Yeah.
We dogened in the bed.
Mainly my fault on that one.
But I still would personally love to see them lose this week. And then why not lose in the final week as well, just to round the season off and just to give them a taste of what every other club has had. Every other club has had these hard seasons where it's tough to support your team, but you do it because you love them, not because they're winning, not because they're winning championships and bloody cutting the strings off the net and, wearing the goggles and spraying piss around below Pass Stadium down there in Christchurch. We support our teams because we love the teams through thick and thin, and I think it's time they had a little bit of thin, to be honest, the Crusaders. And I know they get annoyed when you tell them that.
Oh, yeah.
They get
we're fans, mate.
They're not fans.
We're bloody fans.
They're bad fans.
And you commentated this one, your beloved Highlanders.
Yeah, tough game. Tough game to watch. We really stuck in there, the Landers, for quite a while. Hung on in there, and then we hung on out of there as the Blues just showed... They flexed their muscles, really. They showed their abs. They showed sort of just the top of their shaft. They were really, really on form, and they just looked good. 47 points to 13.
So do you think it's their competition to lose, the Blues? I said that about the Hurricanes 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Hurricanes, they beat Moana Pacifica, but they made bloody hard work of that as well.
Oh, I commentated that game, and they made about 12 changes, though, the Hurricanes. The team was actually unrecognisable apart from...
I was watching it, and I genuinely was thinking, full Jerry Seinfeld, who are these people?
Yeah.
I didn't know any of the names. Basically, I was like, I don't know any of the characters on this field right now.
Here, the Duplessis Karifi was probably the biggest name there, along with Devin Flanders.
Yeah.
The rest, I was like, there's the lock, the Aussie lock that looks like a partner from Bell Gully.
Yeah. I mean, when Devin Flanders is your big name, you've gone off script, because that's a great guy. Love him in The Simpsons. But, I mean, who is he? I know nothing about him.
I think you'll see a completely different... they were lucky to get away with that one, actually, 32-24.
And are the Aussie teams the real deal this year? I mean, we've seen a few teams. I know they're knocking over the Crusaders, but the Brumbies, they are looking pretty decent.
Even
surprising to see the Reds lose on the weekend, though, to Fiji and Drua. But again, over there, in Fiji.
It's tough.
It's
tough.
a tough trip into Suva.
I'm a bit concerned about my beloved Chiefs, who are going to probably qualify fourth, and they'll play the fifth place, which is looking like the Reds. And it's our bogey team, the Reds, in terms of they nearly beat us last year in the semi-final. They upset us in pool play this year. So that's a niggly place. They've got a home semi at least.
They do.
Or a home playoff at least, the Chiefs. But I'm not happy with who we're playing. I was hoping for a Rebels or a Fijian Drua at home or something like that.
Yeah, because I think we can almost get into that part of the season. I mean, we just had a couple of other results over the weekend where the Chiefs beat the Rebels. I think no one was too surprised by that. The good news off the back of it was Amoni Narawa re-signing until 2026. And I mean, he'll probably go on to strap on the old black jersey again, you'd have to imagine. He's one of those players who you love to have around. You love to have him in and around New Zealand rugby, you think, and this is the future that right here.
Yeah, he's a great man, and he got a handshake at the end of this game. Did you see it?
No.
The commentator at the end, because remember he got left hanging a few weeks ago.
He shook his own hand.
He shook his own hand and stared down the barrel. At the post match on this one, the Aussie commentator goes, "Mate, I'm going to shake your hand," and he put his hand out and said it, and Nara went and looked at the camera.
And can I just say, these Aussie commentators, and I know I spend a lot of time on this podcast bagging the commentators, but for God's sake, speak up, man. We can't hear. One of the guys I was watching the Brumbies vs Crusaders game, and he speaks in the lowest voice. He's right down here. You just go, yeah, you got to come.
And one of them talks like it's been like something shoving up his ass.
I can't hear him over the audio mix. I'm like, this is insane. Your only job is to talk, and you can't talk.
Justin Harrison, is
Justin
that him?
Harrison.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And he
speaks with such a lack of enthusiasm, and he comes right down here. And he's like, yep,
I love how the fact he's massively biased, but he's also a massive Gulliver when he goes out in the field.
Yeah.
And there's some poor on-field presentation, usually a female. She's about 5 foot, and Justin Harrison is like
huge freak show.
Yeah, there's a freak show next to her. It's like, come on, guys.
He's got good insight. Like, I'm not saying he's a bad commentator. He gives good expert analysis, but he just needs to do it in a voice that we can hear. It's like there's old Maloney's giving it everything, and then there's a man no one can hear speaking as if he barely wants to be there. We need to send someone over there and say, hey, buddy, if you wouldn't mind, just maybe give it a before you go on, warm up the vocal cords.
Maybe gargle some salt water.
Yeah, gargle on something. We've got sorry, made myself laugh there and lost the plot. What I was going to say before we do take a break and get into this week's game is the table has it's almost sorted itself out into two distinct places. We do have the 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yep.
And then we've got the 5, 6, 7, 8 that'll make up the playoffs. It's almost as if the 1, 2, 3, 4 is all it should be. It's almost as if we should just have a semi-finals based competition because there is daylight between 4 and 5. At the moment, it's 11 points, so that's a gap that even the last two rounds, they couldn't bridge that difference. So there's going to be no movement there between 1 and 4. I'd be very surprised. The only real difference could be in 9 and 8 and 7. There could be some big changes there, swinging around. But basically, it's set, and I think they've got to change it, right? Next year, it's got to be 6 teams.
I seriously think the Super Rugby could be about a month shorter.
Yeah.
Because remember those middle round games where there was only actually 2 games in the weekend?
It was crazy. They played 15 minutes, they got off.
And there was buys and all sorts. And I was like, I reckon we could be into the finals now.
Yeah.
And
I think we should start later. There's no reason for us to be playing rugby in February.
No.
Start later. Let's make it.
And shorten it.
Shorten it up. Shorten it up. Have it shorter, sharper, more games. Learn from what the NRL's doing so well. We want to have a couple of games in a row, a Sunday day game here and there.
Yep.
Sunday day games, people go, oh, no one watches.
Public holiday games.
No one watches games in the daytime. It's always going to be 7:30. On Sunday they will. I'll guarantee you. I'll watch it on my TV on every single Sunday. I know I'm just one guy, but these are the big changes I want to make. Call the bloody players union and say T-Bone wants to come in and show you how to swing.
Well, you'll be an independent director.
Independent. I'll direct the shit out of it independently. I'll be directing everyone. What I want to see is the Highlanders. My first plan was for the Highlanders to make the 8 at 8 and play the Blues in the quarterfinal so I could go along and watch at Eden Park. But after seeing the result of the weekend, I thought maybe it's not the best idea to catch the Blues in a quarterfinal. So what I want to see now is the Highlanders at 7, to stay at 7 and to take on the Hurricanes at home, because I reckon that could a bogey game for them. I reckon they could slip on a banana peel. We've done it before in 2015.
And also they won't have any fans, the Hurricanes, because they all went to the Phoenix.
They all went to the Phoenix. They packed out that ground and got very depressed in the final minute, which we actually watched here after the rugby on Saturday night, flicked it over. We're actually doing running commentary essentially of the Phoenix game, which there could be some times when, I don't know if you have the live feed of the game, there might have been huge swaths of people jumping over to watch the Phoenix at crucial points as we told them what was going on. But yeah, truly punishing stuff for Phoenix fans. And hopefully maybe some of their fans will come back over. They'll keep the yellow on. They'll come over and watch the Hurricanes.
We'll just tell them it's the A-League final.
Yeah, so it's the A-League final, guys. Yeah, the Phoenix are playing. They get there. Surprise. It's the Hurricanes. It's the Hurricanes. So that's what I want to see now. And then hopefully they knock them over, make the semi-final. Boom, Bob's your uncle. We win the championship. No one believed. We've got to make them believe. We're going to take another quick break and we'll be back with this week's games very shortly. And we're back, and the weekend beaming down upon us, looming large. There's a big game on Friday, especially for you, G Lane. The Chiefs mana against the Hurricanes, which we'll have available for you at Sky Sport 9. You bringing the coverage, I assume, with James McConey for that one. And this will be a real indicator of where the Chiefs are at this year. Yeah,
will be. The Chiefs mana bus is going to be rolling. It's at home as well. Chiefs actually favourites for this game, quite heavy favourites against the Canes, mainly because they're playing at FML, I imagine. But yeah, McConey and I are on that on Sky Sport 9 and iHeartRadio on Friday night. But you're right. The Chiefs haven't been. It's been a strange season for them. They haven't quite hit their straps. But I feel like it's what the Crusaders were last year. Because last year the Crusaders lost twice to the Chiefs during round robin play. They slipped up a couple of times, but then it came to the knockout football and they just dominated. Crunched them. I'm hoping that that's what the Chiefs are building up to.
Well, they're under the radar, aren't they? All the talk's the Blues, all the talk's the Canes,
correct.
All the talk's the Crusaders sucking. No one's even really mentioning the Chiefs. I forgot they were a team.
You shut your face, Tony Lyall.
I forgot they were a group of men out there.
Shut your face.
If you didn't keep pissing and moaning about them, I would have forgotten they were even playing, quite frankly. But it'll be a good game. I'll strap in for that one. I'll strap on the feed bag and sup deep for the Chiefs vs Hurricanes. And then we've got the biggest rivalry in New Zealand rugby on the Saturday night. But this time, it could be hilarious. It is the Crusaders, the shittest team in the comp, against the Blues, the best team in the comp. It's down there in Christchurch. And could this be the one where actually, surprise, surprise, the Crusaders roll the Blues?
Well, they did it to the Chiefs down there at Apollo Landing Stadium. Can they do it for the Blues? I don't think so. But it's good to have these two kind of real juicy derbies, though.
Yeah, I agree.
3 of the top 4 teams playing. It's all New Zealand Friday night, Saturday night derbies. I really miss these, and I was really looking forward to this part of the season since ages ago. Since about 6 weeks ago when we were pissing around playing the Rebels and the Moana. And,
one game a weekend.
Yeah, and it just really sucks. So I'm pretty pumped for this weekend. They're going to be a couple of cracking games. I think the Crusaders, they've got nothing to lose, really. They're playing their arch enemy down there in Christchurch.
Hopefully they strap on the retro jerseys. And maybe the Blues should wear theirs as well. It'll sort of be like a Andrew Murdens versus Carlos Spencer when Carlos Spencer sort of said, get fucked to Jade Stadium. I'd like to see that. I think that would bring some passion back into it.
Let the crowd stand on the side of the field. And back in the days where Grizz Wiley punched a supporter in the head.
I want to see the crowd smoking cigarettes on the field. I actually saw a story from the NFL, and apparently one of the stadiums over there, and all I saw was the headline here, so this could be fake news, I could be misinformation, I could be a full conspiracy theorist, but they were going to allow people just to smoke again in the stadium. They're like, it's outdoors, what do you want?
It's true. Well,
it's outdoors. How bad can it be? You can vape, you can smoke.
That's what retro day should be. You know, when they go, it's almost half, it's half pregnant, isn't it? You bring back the old jerseys. Bring back everything. You can smoke in the stadium. You can, dear God, you could order 4 beers at a time. You could order cans, bottles, take it down. What else can you do? You could probably bring your own beer.
You can throw shit during a Mexican wave.
Absolutely. You could make some noise.
When you used to throw shit in a Mexican wave, that was invigorating.
That was epic.
You were getting pelted with booze and cups and God knows what and cigarette butts and a baby when stuff was going up. It was exhilarating.
I loved it because you could get rid of all your rubbish and you piled it and then you got rid of it all.
Yeah.
But then it just got replaced again by other people.
You did get some more.
Yeah.
You were sort of, as it was going around, you were racing to collect up trash. Oh, there's a chippy packet and what else can I get? And it's in there. It's exciting.
Totally.
Bring it back just for one day only. You can piss on these, on, maybe they'll get rid of the seats and make a terrace.
Yeah.
Unbolt the seats in the West Stand at Eden Park, make it a terrace for a day. You can sort of piss where you stand, smoke, drag some couches in there, like they used to do at Carisbrook back in the day. You can bring your own couch, torch it at the end of the game. We've got to do these things. This is, I mean, if we haven't shown ourselves to be completely capable of being on this new independent board for the NZRPA, then I don't know what we have, quite frankly.
Yeah. Hey, so what about in terms of punting? What are we going to do?
Well, I think this weekend we go big. I mean, there's the 2 home derbies, Chiefs, Canes, Crusaders, Blues. Let's go rogue with the wingers, all electrifying wingers across all the teams, and we'll put all 8 wingers across those 2 games into a little pool and say that between them they'll score 4 tries.
I think that's very doable.
I think it's doable.
Given we've got who the wingers are, like Chiefs have got Narawa and Nano Satsuro probably.
Electric. Crusaders have got Shea Fehaki, Severed Peace. Hurricanes have got 2 men who I'm sure are good at rugby. And in the Blues, we've got Caleb Clark, who's in the absolute form of his life.
You got Josh Morby.
Can I just say?
Josh Morby and Kenny Naholo.
Kenny Naholo, what a guy. Waisangi Naholo's little brother will get the chant up. Josh Morby, again, he's doing some under the radar flying.
Yeah, he is. He is like Conrad Smith, isn't he? And like Ben Smith. You know, he's like a player that is dangerously consistent.
Yeah.
Doesn't make many mistakes, but also is not your full glory boy either. Great finisher, unselfish, sets up a lot of tries, great on defense. See, look, I reckon we could maybe make 5 out of the 8 I've scored. I reckon 4 is almost a foregone conclusion.
Well, would 5 mean that one player could score a hat trick and that's 3 of the tries?
Oh, yeah, right. No, I don't think we can.
We're looking around for confirmation here.
Well, maybe I can just hit up the TAB. We'll hit up Carl from the TAB and say, can we do an odds where we just, those 8 players will score 5 or more tries? Yeah, and if one player scores 5 tries, so be it. Yeah,
I think that's good. I think I'd like to see that. And you can also head to TAB website, tab.co.nz, or download the TAB app to check out all the rugby union promos and the boosted odd markets. And the last little thing I've got written here on the sheet, G Lane, is that you're going to Munich. And this does not seem rugby related. This seems more like you going to get on the piss related, but the Export Beer Garden Tour 2024, the Munich edition.
Yeah, we went to Paris last year, and it just so happened to be at the same time as the Rugby World Cup.
Nice.
I don't know how that happened. But this year, we just so happened to be going to Munich at the same time as Beerfest.
Oh, not too bad.
Yeah, so thanks to Export Ultra, we're going to go on the Ultra Beer Garden Tour of where beer gardens almost originated from, and that is Germany and Munich. And we'll head along to the Beer Fest for a day or 2, and you can join us. All you have to do, this is pretty easy, is text Ultra to 3236, follow the link, register your name, and that's it. And you and a mate could be joining us in September in Munich.
Now, how does it work? Do they have to hang out with you the whole time? Because I have to imagine that you at Beer Fest with sort of 6 steins deep could be a little punishing. Are they allowed to just go do their own thing, or do they have to babysit you? Do they carry you around and sort of hold your hair back?
Part of the prize is you do have to look after me.
Yeah.
You have to room with me and basically make sure I don't do anything that
ruins your family life upon return to New Zealand.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So look, it's not a simple prize. There's no such thing as a free lunch, Tony.
No.
So there is some implications there. If you are going to join, you do have to look after.
There is some babysitting requirements. But I mean, that's all right. I find when you are required to babysit, a good strategy is just to become the baby yourself. Yeah. To go, hey, look, I can't look after you, mate. Yeah. I'm worse than you. I've had 16 steins.
I had a mate.
I've actually, I'm wearing a child's lederhosen over here. You can't hold me down.
I did that. A mate did that on a stag do. He got so hammered and so out of control within the first 2 hours of the stag do. We almost had to call the stag do off.
Was he the stag?
Yeah.
Oh.
But he just went for it. And we were like, oh God, this is not fun anymore.
Yeah,
it's
it's
not fun
classic.
for us.
You're like, when you're like, yeah, we'll mess him up. And he's like, you'll mess me up. You think I'm stuck in here with you? You're stuck in here with me.
Correct. And it was a bold strategy and it worked because we didn't have much fun. And he was just a hurricane through Queenstown. He was on top of police cars, pulling windscreen wipers off police cars. And we were like, holy shit. So,
well, hey, start as you intend to finish is what I always say. If you come home from the stag do and you're partner to be like, how was it? Got arrested, bashed a cop, kicked a kid in the head. It's tough. You're like, this is who you're marrying. It's too late now to pull out.
Totally.
We've sent the invites.
Absolutely. So Jeremy Wells will be on there as well. So will Mania Stewart.
Oh, nice.
So look, I mean, you'll have to look after all three of us.
You'll be a big babysitting. There'll be some heavy nappy changes as well, and get a bit of that pork knuckle in there. And when you are changing the nappy, it's a very meaty excrement. And I think it's a good place to park it up. Text Ultra to 3236 to wipe the nappy. And great news, one last thing. This Sunday, 2:00, the Highlanders playing a day game. I've been pissing and moaning about it on this podcast all year long. Why aren't there Sunday day games? Why aren't there Sunday day games? We've finally got one, and it's going to be glorious.
And where are you playing? At home?
At home, in the lunchbox.
At 2:00 in the Arvo?
2 in the Arvo.
Sunday
Come watch
session.
it. 100%. And while you're doing that, obviously, goes without saying, go to comedyfestival.co.nz and buy a ticket the last few days of Lower the Tone. You can come along and have some laughs at the Classic every night at 8:40 p.m. And G Lane, I assume you've already got your ticket?
Yep. 4 of them.
Don't buy that at all. All right. We'll catch you next week. Thanks for listening, and go the Landers.